Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Bebo. In this video, this is part 3 of 3 on solving percent problems, and in this one we're specifically going to take a look at problems that ask us to find the whole. So what is it out of? And then at the end of this video I'll actually have just a series of questions that you can practice, and then I'll have that answer key so that you can check just to really make sure you know how to solve these percent problems. So to take a look at these first few problems here, we're going to be finding the whole for all 4 of these. Once again, I will show both methods, percent proportion as well as the percent equation, so that you can see how both methods work. So taking a look at our first example, it says 35% of what number is 35? Identifying our key pieces in this problem, we see that we have 35%, so that's obviously our percentage that we're going to be working with. I always tell students then look for the word of after you've identified what the percent is. And so in this case it says of what number, so now we know, all right, we don't know what it's out of, so that's going to be our W, and then is 35, that is going to be the part. So setting up our proportion, we're going to have 35 over W equals your percentage out of 100. Now what's really nice about this one, and we probably could have solved this one even without setting up a proportion, our W value is going to match, right, the bottom portion. Our ratios are equal to each other. So 35 out of what is equal to 35 out of 100? It's going to be 100. If you had to go through the steps, again, you would just do your cross products, which we can just go ahead and write out quick. But you got 35 times 100, 35 times W. So we would have 35W equals 3,500. So 35 times 100 is 3,500. Dividing both sides by 35, we would find out that W is, like we saw, without even having to do all these steps, that W is going to be 100. So sometimes that can happen and have a really nice math problem where it works out to be a pretty simple solution. All right, so now we're going to take a look at number 10, which is going to be a little bit more involved. It's not going to be as simple as that last one. We're going to, again, go through and identify the different portions to our problem. So identify the percent first. 75%, that's my percentage. Of what number, that's going to be W, and then 48 will be the part. Again, looking for those keywords or symbols in this case. So like the percent sign, that's indicating the percentage. And then, like I said, I would look for the word of. What is it out of? In this case, we don't know. And then 48 that is going to be the part. So setting up our proportion, we're going to have A over W, so 48 over W, and that's going to stay W because we don't know what that is, equals 75 out of 100. Once we have our proportion set up, we're going to go ahead and do our cross products. So we'll do 48 times 100 and 75 times W. 48 times 100 is 4,800. 75 times W would be 75W. And then to solve this, this is just a one-step equation. If W is being multiplied by 75, the inverse is to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 75. And then we're going to find out that we get an answer of 64. So 64 equals W. And that's it for that question. So setting up a proportion, again, one option for solving these problems. We can also set up an equation. So if I take a look at this next one, again, we're going to identify the key pieces of information that we need. So start with the percent. So 30%, I can see that that is my percentage. Of what number, we don't know, so that's W again because it's out of something, right? Of is indicating it's of a total. And then 15 that's the part. So when I set up my equation, which again is in the form A equals P times W, we do have to keep in mind that our percentage, we do need to rewrite as a decimal. So technically you are dividing this value by 100, or just moving your decimal place to the left 2 spots. And so this is going to be 30 hundredths or 3/10. So you do want to make sure that if you're choosing to use the equation, change that percent into its decimal form. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and plug these values into our equation. A equals P times W, so it's going to say 15 is equal to, I'm going to use 3/10, and then W, we don't know what that is, right? So that's my equation with its one unknown. And then it's a one-step equation. We got to solve it, much like we did to finish out our proportion problems. If W is being multiplied by 3/10, we're going to divide that on both sides at 3/10. And my answer will be 50. So 50 equals W. Okay. So for this last one, same idea. It says 0.5% of what number is 102. So it's a very tiny percentage, so keep that in mind when we do get our final answer. Sometimes students question their math, but 0.5% it's less than 1%. So it's a very tiny amount. So we're looking at 0.5%. So again, that's our percentage. Of what number? That's going to be what it's out of, so W. And then is 102. That is our part. So A equals P times W. Remember, if we're going to use the equation, which we plan on doing in this example, we do need to change our percentage into its decimal form. Now, students will see this and they're like, but there's already a decimal point in it. This is the percent form because it has the percent sign. We need to change this. And again, dividing by 100 is technically the math that you do here, or you can just think of it as moving your decimal point to the left 2 spots. The decimal form of 0.5% is going to be 0. And then 0.005. So 5 thousandths is our decimal form of 0.5%. So make sure that you don't get tripped up on that. Just because there's a decimal point in our percentage doesn't mean that's the decimal form. That is technically a percentage if it has that percent sign. All right, so now that we have that taken care of, we can go ahead and again set up our problem to solve here. So the part, which is 102, equals your percent in decimal form, so 0.005, so 5 thousandths, and then times W, which again is our unknown. To solve this, we're going to divide both sides by that 5 thousandths. And then 102 divided by 5 thousandths is going to end up giving us an answer of 20,400. That's what it's out of. And again, students will kind of panic because they're like, that just seems like it's too big. But remember, 0.5%, that is really tiny. So those are our examples for finding the whole, again, using both a percent proportion as well as a percent equation. On this next slide, I have some problems where you can take a look at just a variety of percent questions. You can write and solve a proportion or an equation to answer each of these questions, see what you can come up with, and then I would suggest that you pause the video as you're working them out, and then once you've tried them all, you can go ahead and check your solutions. All right, so how did you do? So check your answers and see how you did. Hopefully you did okay. Do note that on D you did have to round, so you might have rounded it differently since my instructions did not technically say what to round to. 81.8% is what I had rounded it to, but again, as long as you're something in the ballpark, you're all set. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this helped you with solving percent problems.